I am Eva Clark of Mind-Based Healing. Mind-Based Healing is a nonprofit that studies and researches ways to use NLP and hypnotherapy on chronic disease. And they also train other hypnotherapists on particular diseases or on chronic disease in general, so that you can also work with it in your practice. And so we're doing a few of these community brainstorms. I think we could really support each other right now. And so the intention of today's is how to get your practice 100% online, how to become a virtual hypnotherapist. And the purpose is really for you guys to contribute your insights and suggestions, to share your personal experience on all these areas, and, or just to listen and learn and then apply in your own practice. The idea is to offer our colleagues the support to get themselves online so that they can become a bit more pandemic proof. This meeting is just to share what we apply in our own practices. The suggestions are not legal advice, so please search where you're located, your state or your country, the rules to do virtual sessions. I kind of just split it into these areas. So if each one of you who wants to share can kind of share what forms, what intakes you are using, what sort of sessions you're using online, is it telephone, video, and what programs you're using, how do you communicate electronically, and file, and any advantages you see to having your practice virtual. Who would like to begin?
I'm happy to start if
Great, Jenny. Yeah.
I just make sure I can see the buckets of information you'd like to have this information in. Okay, electronic forms, intake and disclaimer. Okay, so I have I'm a legacy ACHE member, and so I have a form that I think it was circulating around ACHE for a while. It was an intake through the school that I went to with some ACHE language. And it's just a regular Word document that I put into a PDF filler online and made it fillable forms.
So the PDF?
And PDF filler. And when a client books with me, the tool I use for booking is called Simply Book Me. Very, very customizable tool. Once they book with me online, they get to select, in-person, remote, face-to-face, which would be a Zoom or something like that, or WebEx, or I've got several that I use. They choose it, and then once they've selected and booked and paid, they will receive an email that has a link to this form to complete online. And they'll fill in the data, and they'll submit, and they'll get a copy sent to their email, and I receive a copy, and it goes in my client file. And it is the exact form, just with the digital signature. And PDF Filler has a certification for digital signatures, so it's legit. And
Good.
It's also HIPAA compliant, even though our field necessarily isn't a part of that model. Yeah, we definitely like to follow those practices, so it's HIPAA compliant, and so is Simply Book Me. So any of the data that comes in there also is HIPAA compliant. So
and
that
any
is
email you use in particular?
I'm sorry?
Any kind of email server you use in particular?
Well, the Simply Book Me is HIPAA compliant tool, so that goes through there. Okay. But as far as other than that, my database is HubSpot, and so I interact through most of my clients through HubSpot, and it catalogs and logs everything. So that does both marketing and CRM, and I can host the form also in HubSpot. If I wanted to, I could host it in there, but PDF Filler works great. I've been using it for 8 years, so.
Good. Any advantages you see to doing this virtually?
To doing the whole hypnotherapy virtually?
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. It was a strange time for all of this to take place because I had just moved my practice from Bradenton to Celebration, Florida, and I was rebuilding. I was in a great place in Bradenton, but I moved to do some personal things, and unfortunately, as soon as it took off, it tanked because I wasn't ready for it. But what's funny is that in Bradenton, I was doing so well, and I didn't even think, oh, I don't need to do virtual hypnotherapy. What's that? I like face-to-face. I don't need to do this stuff. And it really forced the issue for me. And so I went online very quickly. I was like up and running very, very quickly. And clients were giving me feedback about phone and video. And it was just fantastic. And it worked so perfectly. And what I found is that necessity is the mother of creation, or creativity. Is that what they say? I had to get really creative really quickly about how to create inductions, especially ones that were deeper. I'm used to doing some rapid inductions, which put people in very quickly. So I had to play around a little bit, but I got comfortable with that. And the good news is that the client was so flexible. They were so flexible. They were so willing. And most of the feedback I got was that, Danny, I love you, but I'm sure glad I don't have to drive to see you anymore. You know, so.
Yeah.
So that was the big plus. Plus, you know, with a little bit of instruction, I was able to help them get a tool that allowed me to hear them, allowed them to hear me, how to minimize disruptions and distractions in the house, how to make sure they could have their authentic expression of whatever they need to connect to, how they understood in advance if we got disconnected. The state is so flexible, they could just call back. We drop right back into the state. A lot of that, those instructions up front made things so easy. So now I practiced that was 100% online, 15 clients a week, 2 months in advance is now 100% virtual. So best thing that ever happened to me, actually, because I'm standing here in my jammies.
Good.
So did I hit every box, or did?
I think you did.
Okay.
All
I'd
right.
also say, if I could also add some of the other tools I use, I do have WebEx, I do have Google Hangouts, I have, Ring Central. I have basically any tool that the client already uses, I go and train myself up in, because I don't want their having to learn a new tool to be a perturbance. So I pretty much have them all. I don't know that that's necessary, but I'm a little bit of a tech geek. And I will go and learn up any tool that they want to use. So
okay. Yeah, that makes it easier for them. What are you comfortable with, right?
Yep.
All right. Thank you for
I
that.
think that's about covers it. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to share what they use in their practice to go virtual?
Well, I could just say what I've been doing for quite a while. Phone, Skype, and Zoom. And although it's a small reference on my website that I use those facilities, I've decided I have to let the rest of the world know, because a week and a half ago, client calls dropped off, like from 10 to 15 a week to 2. And so I've seen 2 people in the office, but we're sitting 10 miles apart from each other, which is interesting. Anyway, and and before this virus came, I was pretty busy virtually. I mean, it seemed to be growing. I had a spike of clients wanting to work that way before the all the shutdowns and home alone and insulation took place. So now I'm going to find out by broadcasting it more on the web through LinkedIn and just email service about responsiveness. Although I've seen past 2 days, I've seen an increased spike in people hitting on my website and staying for a little bit, which is interesting. I can feel things shifting.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. Online presence is getting more important, and people are searching online for solutions.
I agree. Right.
All right. Yeah.
So I'm going to look up that the filler form, the PDF filler form.
Yeah, and I hope that we will have quite a few here. I'll take a photo of this and add it to the email. I'll just be adding stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, we can research different ones and see.
And I just wanted to thank you for hosting this thing today. It's good. Feels really great. Community across the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you.
Okay, great. And so who else would like to share what they are using or beginning to use or questions? Yes, Paul.
So yeah, I'm Paul Hessinger in San Francisco, sunny, foggy San Francisco. I was using telephone for NLP and hypnosis a long time back. I've been in practice for 14 years.
Mhm.
And I found that because I had certain, phone clients that because they were far away, LA mostly were actresses who want to get ready for auditions. It started out that way. And it really took some focusing because working on the phone is hard. You can't see the facial expressions. You can't see the breathing. But what it did is forced me to learn that, because they called me, they wanted to do it, and they weren't available. I didn't have Skype or didn't know about it or something at that time. So in other words, just like the woman earlier from Benetton, I can't remember her name, but she necessity. So I learned that, and that helped me to jump on. When I found Skype, which was several years ago, I've been doing this for quite a few years. What I found out is if you have to set it up, like she said also, I tell people find a comfortable spot where you can play if you want, so your head doesn't roll around if you happen to get really relaxed. Also, I tell a little story because I think it's really helpful, kind of an overview of what can happen. You have to tell them how to, that you can reconnect, you'll still stay in trance, like she said, no problem. But I had a client in New York somewhere, Oyster Bay, New York. And we started out and I could see a fan in the window. It was a hot summer, summer afternoon. It's 3 hours later, right? All of a sudden, as we're in the session, just barely getting going, the sun seemed to be going down and she started shivering. And I went, oh crap, this is going to be really uncomfortable. I forgot to mention maybe you'll get cool, have a blanket. Well, because it was hot, didn't even think of it. So what I did was I remembered her in her intake form, which I send out and got back, that she said that she and her daughters like to go to this favorite little beach nearby their house to sunbathe. So I took her to the beach, had her sunbathe long enough to get really warm, talked a lot about sun on her skin and all that stuff. She wasn't shaking anymore. We finished the session and we're done. So that's you have to be a little creative because things come up.
Yeah. I've had several times that if it's a long hypnosis session, it'll become nighttime for them because I'm on the West Coast, they're on the East Coast. And so
Exactly.
them less and less and less. And I don't want to tell them turn on a lamp. It's like, okay, note to self. Make sure.
So the rest of your questions, it's really light print, virtual session,
So what kind of forms do you use? Sessions now, you use Skype?
I use Zoom mostly. I used to use Skype, but Zoom seems to be just easier.
Yeah.
And clearer. I don't use any electronic forms except that I just send them an intake form that I've, had, and they send that back and I have it. And I actually would love to talk to somebody off this session about what they're using for, I'm very not a computer geek. I'm like Stone Age.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this, is so that we can see. I mean, I took a long time. I took maybe 2 weeks looking for different kind of email things, and I tested all sorts of forms. And so it's really nice to be able to share what have we found that worked for us in this particular thing, as
Yeah, I'm also going to be 69 this month, so I'm not building an empire, not trying. It's a lovely spot I'm in that I just can selectively work with clients that I really feel like will benefit from my help. And so I do that. And I've been working around the world for a while. I mean, I remember, I think one of my earlier sessions was a guy in Paris in his bed. He was in this great big bed. We were doing smoking cessation.
Yeah.
So it's really a wonderful thing.
Yeah, so those are the advantages, being able to work.
I have clients in Brazil and Peru, and I mean, I kind of wish I could spread it around more because I'm not an incredibly good marketer, because I just like the diversity too.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's take on it, because I certainly have a lot to learn, but I think the main piece is getting the person there and doing the work I can do.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Who else would
Thank you for having this, and thank you everyone who's on there for your audition and what will be your audition.
Yeah. So I wanted to share what I've used in these different areas. For electronic forms, I use Acrobat Sign. It used to be Echo Sign, but Acrobat bought it. I tried DocuSign because it was cheaper, but I found it is much more cumbersome to get your files electronic. So with Acrobat Sign, you take your normal document, your forms, your disclaimers that, you know, I don't know about you, but every so many months I touch it up. I read something, I get it, you know, I'm like, oh, like lately with this, I've really added more when it comes to virtual on my disclaimer. It's very easy to take your document, you just convert it into a PDF, you upload it into Acrobat Sign, and it will have auto suggestions. It says, we have detected, you know, places to fill. Would you like us to fill your form? I say yes, and most of the time it's exactly where I need my clients to sign, their date, their email. It picks that up automatically. And so then I have a library within Acrobat Sign, and I can send to people with chronic disease a certain form that really looks at their symptoms, and people with anxiety, the form I used for them. So yeah, I've really loved that. Sessions virtually, my preference is Zoom. I do the paid version, mainly so I can do this, but also because it seems to be more private. Zoom actually has an encrypted version. However, there is a bit of a lag time. So I talk to my clients about that, and we agree what they're comfortable with. And I do add it in the disclaimer that we cannot guarantee 100% privacy when things go online. With electronic communication, I use texts only for dates, you know, to set up dates and things. A client will say, hey, I need to change this. Is it possible? I do have on my form, I ask them for reminders or scheduling, what do you prefer using? And I have email, text, or phone call, and, you know, they'll check it off. Most people just for scheduling texts. The email user I use is Paubox. It's Paubox. It's encrypted email. I tried many different types. I find I don't want it to be difficult for my clients. Most of my clients stay with me for a very long time, but I don't want them to have this big learning curve and have to sign into a program to get my emails, because I know if it is, they're not going to come back to them. And I like to send sometimes summaries. We'll agree if they want me to send a summary or their homework online, and I want it to be easy for them. So Paubox does encrypt, but they receive an email that just said this is encrypted, but it's like, looks to them like a regular email. So I find it's easier for them, they're more comfortable. I also know that Office, there's a particular Office, it's called Office 365 E3. That one is also encrypted. I work a lot with functional medical doctors and practitioners, and if they have a private practice, they use Office 365 E3 because just as Paubox, it's encrypted and it's an easy encryption. The client receives an email that seems to be like a regular email for them. Electronic filing. I do not save files on my computer just because it's online. I will, when I get the forms from my clients, I'll print it out and put it into their file. I send them MP3s of the session, and I send it through Dropbox. I found that Dropbox is much easier for them to just put the app on their phone, and they could just listen to it with earphones at night. It will actually download onto their phone, and they don't have to be on internet. They can be listening to it in a plane if they wanted to. And there's no lag. While with Google folders, sometimes the file will, you know, kind of get stuck in the middle. Also, Dropbox does mention that their files are also encrypted. It is the same standards as banks and militaries use. So I have their MP3s on Dropbox, and then I have an external drive that I will save those MP3s just because sometimes my clients accidentally erase what's on the Dropbox, and that way we have two copies in case they need them. I also, if we do any email interactions, I will print it and put it onto their paper filing. I had a question about with these files, do I save them as a HIPAA compliant, way of naming? No, I do not. I actually do not mention the name HIPAA. I will use it just to kind of see how my own standards. I do not mention those words because actually the NGH says that we need to be careful that we're not deceptive. And if you are saying the word HIPAA to clients, they might think that you're a health practitioner, healthcare practitioner, and you are not. I do want to say that I know some associations are very insistent on their practitioners being HIPAA compliant. And as of mid-March, the Trump administration has limited waivers to privacy provisions, and healthcare providers can now use FaceTime, Facebook Messenger video chat, Google Hangouts, and Skype to provide telehealth, as long as they do what they can and in their means to maintain privacy. Just so you know that during this place, if you are not comfortable because you are in an association that does not allow for this, HIPAA right now currently is allowing for you to use Skype and these kind of things. And I guess lastly, advantages. I think the biggest advantage, A, is right now you can continue to work, but B is if you are a specialist. I specialize especially in multiple sclerosis, and IBS is my bread and butter. And by having most of my clients online, I can work with people with MS. Currently, for example, I work with someone in Australia, in Ontario, in the East Coast, in Spain, and I could only do that with this kind of setup already in place. All right, yeah, and I use video as, with Paul, I find it very difficult to not be able to paste them and to see what's going on. And with video, I can see. Also, what I'll do is in the middle of the session, if we're doing hypnosis, I'll actually remove my video, just so that it just has my name, just to limit the bandwidth to keep it as stable as possible. And I do spend time, I don't charge them, especially if I know they're not computer savvy. I'll schedule a time, 20 minutes for us to test Zoom. I'll walk them through it and I'll tell them about, if they get kicked out, there is absolutely no problem in hypnosis to, when you notice complete silence, to open your eyes, see that I'm not there anymore, and go back in. I actually tell them the caveat that they will actually go deeper. So it is not a problem. It is sometimes even an advantage. It tends to set things up and they just drop even deeper afterwards. What I will say, and I discovered some years ago, is do not put music in the background when you're doing Zoom. They won't hear it. It kind of comes in distorted. So what I do is in hypnosis, I will record it, and then I will put it in GarageBand because I have a Mac, put wonderful music in the background and send it to them, and it's professional at that point. Also, a great thing is if you put earphones on, then your recorder will not pick up their sighing, their, mentioning whatever. It won't pick up the noise that's in their background. I do suggest to them, unless they're uncomfortable, to wear earphones. It just helps with privacy on their side, because if anybody were to eavesdrop, they can't hear the whole conversation. They only hear half of it.
What did you say about earphones? You wearing earphones? I didn't quite catch.
I wear earphones so that when I record in hypnosis, so I'll record the induction and then I'll record, usually we're speaking to disease and trance and those things. At the end, I'll record, now that you know, anytime your back hurts, you'll remember that you are, whatever the subconscious has told us. if I use earphones, sometimes the client will be like, yes, 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 I remember now. And you don't want that in the recording because it'll distract them, their own voice. But if I have earphones on, my recorder will only pick up me, not what I'm hearing through my ears in the earphones, if that makes sense. And as well, I recommend they use earphones just for privacy within their homes and environments. So if anybody is trying to eavesdrop, they can't get the full conversation. Yeah, so if anyone else,
Can I ask one question?
yes.
So you have your earphones plugged into your computer, and then you have your recorder just there with you.
Yes.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. And my record, I will be pausing and pausing at different moments. If I ask them a question, I will pause, then I will put it back on and repeat what they said in trance so that they have that information.
And
So
what?
does that,
Sorry, go ahead.
does that recorder, you just set it near the speaker of your computer or something?
I have it on my table next to my notes. So if in the session I ask their their subconscious, what is the purpose of their back pain? What do you want them to do more of? And they hear that message and they say, the purpose of the back pain is to remind them to slow down. I want them to be more mindful. Then I'll say, Then I will turn on the recording and say, every time you notice a pain in your back, you'll remember to slow down and be mindful. Where are you at? What are you doing? And so I will record those things.
But you mean that your recorder is on the desk recording your laptop? So
it's recording me. Nothing about my laptop. It is recording my voice.
Oh, okay.
In the same way as in your office, you might have a phone or recorder that's recording the.
Gotcha. Okay, I got confused. I thought you were recording the whole.
Yeah, I record pieces. And what's wonderful is I don't have to later cut them out, and if they're in my office and they, cough or whatever, it would be picked up, and it's quite annoying to listen to that 20 times. And so, yeah. And Kate, you had a question?
Oh, no, I did, but I forgot it. I'll pipe back in. Oh, I was going to ask what type of recorder you use.
This is an Olympus digital voice recorder. The only thing I would suggest is that it has a very big red button, so you don't have to be looking for it. It's easy to turn on and off, and that it already has a USB on it. Mm-hmm. Just make it easier to quickly get it onto your computer to send it to them.
Okay, thanks.
So I do, this is Greg. I do surrogate sessions or through a surrogate for clients that request it. Can you hear me? I don't know if you can.
Yes, Greg, I can hear you.
Okay, and I record them totally, the actual session on MP3 with a Sony and use Sound Organizer and then copy to Hightail Express, which is really good, and it's encrypted on both sides.
Yeah, so that you would use Hightail to send it to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I send a copy to the surrogate, who sometimes is a student of mine for their learning.
Yeah. I've also noticed what I love, one of the advantages of using Zoom is some of my clients will actually ask me to record the entire session.
Yeah.
Because we really speak about a lot of things. I review what happened in the previous session, and I'll send them just the MP3, not the video, just it's too big, right? But Zoom will allow me to just send them a link so I don't have to download it. And I will send them the link so that they have the entire session if they want it. So it's kind of nice.
So Zoom has it recorded in video?
Yes, it records one file in video, one file in audio. So I'll send them the audio recording because the video would be huge, but audio,
right,
an hour and a half is about 33 megabytes.
Do you save the video parts?
I don't, just the audio.
Where does it send that to when you record?
It keeps it in a cloud on Zoom, though you have the option for Zoom to record it onto your own computer. Oh. I keep it outside of my computer. My computer's not that big. And Zoom will actually give you a link that you can send to your clients so that they can grab it directly.
So that must not be true when you have the free Zoom. You can't, because I don't see that.
I think with the free Zoom, Zoom gives you the option to record it to your computer, but not to keep it on there.
I see. I see. That, yeah, I did that. I thought it ended up on my computer. That's what I,
Yeah, it'll end up on your computer. The only problem with that is if you're having issues with bandwidth or whatever, it's going to record that. While if it stays on their virtual cloud, they're picking it up from their side and it tends to be clear.
ah, thank you.
Yeah.
More stuff.
Yep, this is all. So Karen, you have your hand up.
Hi. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Eva, for doing this. This is great. Well, I have two things. I have a question. And before I go to the question, I'd also like to say what I use for recording is I just use my iPhone, and there's a great app. It's called Voice Record Pro. And you can just download that for free, and it's actually really good quality. So, you know, I do that for all of my hypnosis recordings. That works really well.
Okay. Yeah.
Less gadgets.
To them.
Yeah, and then the question, you know, I'm kind of a newbie to the virtual stuff. You know, I've done hypnosis for 30 years, and I'm a life coach, so I'm used to doing phone. So the video part is really new to me, and I am very new to doing hypnosis virtually. So I'm a little nervous about it, to tell you the truth, because I'm very used to being with the person, reading their cues, knowing, you know, how deep I can go. And so, you know, so I've been making recordings for clients, but there's certain processes I haven't used virtually because I feel like, you know, I'm not right there to deal with whatever fallout is happening. So I would love any insights or ways that you handle that, safety, you know, so just kind of to reassure me that it's okay to do it.
Anyone want to share what they do or don't do, and, you know, safety for working online?
Well, I like working with a camera because as someone mentioned, it's easier to follow the breath and pace with them and where they are. However, I actually like the phone a lot because there's an intimacy that
Yeah.
I think occurs that doesn't occur when you're doing video.
Right.
Or even in person. There's a type of intimacy that I think is genuine and important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that too, that on the phone, I find that it's sometimes easier for the client to go inward. When we have the visuals, that can, you know, depending on their learning style, that can be distracting because it's they're having to, you know, cue off, you know, the picture, and they don't tend to internally focus as much. Is one of the things that I've noticed.
One of the things I do is I make sure, or, you know, when I'm going to do a process with them, I say, look across the room for a blank wall or a wall with a frame.
Okay.
And I get them not to be focused on me.
Good.
Yes.
And then, of course, if they're going to do hypnosis, I just want to see their chest and their face just for breathing. But I don't, and they're like, oh, you know, and I'm like, you don't need to see me. I just want to do this. And
Right.
but I try to make sure they're not doing this face to face, because then they're really focused on me. The process isn't me.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think with the earphones kind of helps to contribute to that telephone kind of feeling, that intimacy. They're right there within.
That's true. I agree.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Yes, if they wear the speakers, it's like you're right there. And if you listen, it's just like we're listening now, it's in the room. It's just a whole different experience. The other thing about safety, I've never had a problem, because I think if you're creative, if you get ab reactions or whatever happens, you can deal with it. But the most important thing I found is set it up ahead of time with telling them if you fall off Zoom, or if, you know, find a comfortable spot so I can see you. You can sort of be reclining. And I tell them, you may doze off for a second, and that's fine, but you need to be in a place where your head isn't going to drop or roll or whatever. And if you set it up that way, I've never had a problem ever so far. And
Mhm.
it's great. I wish to be in person though. Actually, I like doing that far better. I don't know. It's just my bias, but both, even the phone works. It worked really well, but I really like to see them, and I really like the personal being in the room. But you know, we can't do that right now.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, Nancy?
Well,
I've actually had a person say to me, you know, when we came back to conscious awareness, they said, I can't believe I experienced all this in my living room. So then I started liking it a lot more. And I use my iPhone to record the sessions and to also make scripts for them. And I use AirDrop to put it onto my computer. So that's pretty easy. I can just AirDrop what I've recorded from my iPhone onto my laptop if I want to have it. Otherwise, I can just delete it from my phone and I'm finished with it. And they love, you know, I've worked with some very ill people in the past year, and there really wasn't a way to see them after a while. And they were in hospitals in different places and things like that. And I've really become fond of this actually for that reason. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoom, you can use it on a phone. You know, I had a
Yes.
client who's not computer savvy at all. And at the end of our first session, she was here, but they were starting to talk about shelter in place. So we spent 20 minutes. I downloaded the Zoom on her app and on her phone. And I told her, I'm just going to give you an ID. You just write it down and you're in. And, you know, she's using it here. So it's easy if she's at home or if she's anywhere in bed, she can.
And you can have Dropbox on your phone.
Exactly.
So you can just send it.
Yeah.
And make it useful. Thank you.
Lots of advantages, just, you know, I guess, you know, getting comfortable with it and feeling, you know, like I said, in my case, I've done it in person for so long.
Reach out to a colleague, do some practice sessions.
Yes, good idea.
Yeah.
I would love to add to that if I could. This is Danny.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay. Yeah. So to Eva's point, I had a lot of reservations about going online. I thought I was, you know, riddled with the objections that clients already had to this idea that it would be less effective, it wouldn't be as rewarding, I wouldn't get as much out of it, so on. And I really had to go clear those misconceptions in myself before I could offer that to my clients. And once I did, it was so easy because not a single person ever said to me, Danny, I think this is going to be less effective. Most people are saying, gosh, I love it. You're right here in my head. As soon as I closed my eyes, was right here. And the benefit of clearing that for me is, boy, once I cleared up all of that angst, I was now much more present for my client in this session. So that was the most beautiful thing that came out of it, is my ability to focus is actually more attuned because I'm remote than it ever was before. So I'm really grateful to have cleared that one up. It was a couple sessions myself with some parts work. So get some work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I also wanted to offer some encouragement. I'm Kate, sorry, in Kansas City. I don't have that much experience with the Zoom sessions and had a little bit of nervousness myself, but I ended up getting some referrals in New York City and a client that was several hours away that didn't want to travel. And I had actually done sessions with Eva so that she definitely, you know, set me up and helped me get more comfortable with it. But I had one client in New York that just really had some resistance to hypnosis. It was her first experience. And, you know, she just, when we did kind of engaged different parts of her, they didn't want to talk to her, you know, and which my training was that, you know, oh, they talk and there's a response. So it was this very big learning challenge. So we ended up having them, you know, write little messages in the clouds, and we just had to get really creative. But working with her as one of the first people in video sessions felt challenging at first, but then it felt really encouraging. Like, oh my goodness, if I can navigate that with her, who had such difficulties just with hypnosis, and it would have been the same whether I was in the room with her or not, it really just put me at ease to know that you know, whatever comes up for them, we can handle in the session. And sometimes I go back to just that idea of like quantum physics, you know, like particles can be affected here across the universe. And so if I just trust that knowing within us is going to do its work, and that I'm not really the one responsible, I'm just being present and aware, then whatever means they need to meet with me will be sufficient, whether it's on the phone or a video call. Or I worked with another client and I wasn't prepared, and my computer wasn't charged and my phone wasn't charged. It was this big, you know, fiasco and learning of like, oh, I need to make sure I'm prepared. But even in that session, having to switch from the computer to a phone to several things, it worked out, and she still had a meaningful experience. So I just want to encourage you to just give it a go, and, you know, trust your preparation, trust the client's need, and if they're open to it, you know, experience will help you feel more comfortable.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Their feedback, they'll definitely tell you what's working and adjust. Like in your own office, my online clients, different people have different needs. You know, like some want the full recording, some need earphones, and
Exactly. Thank you.
yeah. Paul.
Yeah, a couple of things. I was in something, I forget what I was in last week, and somebody mentioned that when people are in their own space, doing work there is more powerful. And I never thought of that, but that's true, because they're already in it's like anchored then right in the correct place, not in your office.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I believe that to be true, because people never complain about sessions. Also, I was taught, and I firmly believe this because I believe in the power of consciousness, that my clients are ready to learn, ready to change, and they're absolutely beautiful clients, or, you know, whatever format you think of in that moment. I always do that before I go in, and I think it works across the universe, you know, across Skype. So I think our attitude is like, I think Danny was just saying, is really important. Clean up your own thoughts about it, and you'll be fine. And you know, I've been doing hypnosis and NLP for a long time, and sometimes I'm sitting in my chair when we saw people live, and I'm sitting there going, I have no clue what to do. And here I am 14 years in, and it's just like I'm blank, you know, like you're giving a speech and you blank out. I just take a deep breath and trust my intuition, and then you go forward. And it's beautiful. That we all know that. We have to just remember that.
Absolutely.
Well said. Good.
I'm also remembering referring to what kind of sessions is when I, in one of the past life regression trainings, we were taught, you know, to teach our clients at the beginning to take them to a safe space, anchor that safe space, and to also tell them if it seems intense, you can always float up above and blah, blah, you know, these kind of things, and really set that up at the beginning of a session that might, you know, that you might be concerned that it might get intense, so that they have tools, and, you know, to give them permission. You can always float up, and when you feel ready, whenever that is, you'll know when you can come back down, and giving them that really can help help you, and help you feel like they're going to be they're going to have the tools they need.
Yeah, you're all very smart. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And Dan.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So along those same lines, you know, because I'm doing the deeper work in the remotely as well, which I thoroughly enjoy. So regressions, past life regressions, even some deeper somnambulistic healing. And I set up with my clients advance. This is again because I ran into this situation and went, oh crap, what do I do? I set up in advance a little idiomotor opportunity, because if they get to the state where they're so deep and they can't communicate with you, you don't know they're there, you don't know what's going on, you don't even know if they've dropped off, you don't know. So I set up a little idiomotor and intend that the subconscious will remember this should we need it later, should it's called upon later, should it be called upon later. And that is just to simply find the microphone on your headset and kind of train the client to it in advance, that all right, now your deep inner mind knows, all parts of you now know this is where the microphone is. If any time we ask you to tap on that microphone, all parts of you know where that is and can access that easily, naturally. And so I found that's very useful, because if they're quiet for a long period of time, they're not responding to suggestions, I can just say, part of client's mind is listening right now, and that part remembers the discussion that we had in the beginning. If that part of client can just easily and naturally go up, just tap that microphone to me to communicate that you're still here, still listening. Every time I'll get a response.
Great.
So for me, it's just a way to remind, to help them see that they can still be engaged, and kind of ease my fear that they haven't dropped off. And so from there, I just kind of go and extend it to, all right, the part of the client that was just able to tap the microphone, please go up and open and close client's mouth. And I usually hear this. And then, thank you very much. Thank you for responding in that way. The part of client that just opened and closed client's mouth, will you just simply say, I'm here? And then 99% of the time I hear, I'm here. So it's a way to get them, pace them from the ideomotor response back up into the ability to verbalize what's going on. And then I just move forward from there. But that's happened because I created that because it's happened where I haven't had a client response and I panicked. So
Yes.
something to think about.
Good one.
Setting that up in advance.
That's great.
You can always call them back up.
Yep.
You can always, hello, Earth calling, always call back up if you want.
All right. Well, thank you so much for participating, for sharing, for coming here to receive. And I hope that got most of you inspired to find the means to be pandemic resistant and keep your practice going through this time and into the future. I think we're learning for all of us to really expand and be able to provide for many people.
Thanks for doing this, Eva.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eva. That was great.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva, and all of you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you.
Participating. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.